Welcome back to another edition of This Week in CA Football presented by Geico. I'm Bobby Broyles along with Rob Washburn. Rob, we had 3 top 25 matchups on the conference slate last Saturday, and they all lived up to the hype as we get ready for another Saturday of CA football action.
You know, one of the best things about following the league with so many quality programs is you're going to get great games week in and week out, and last Saturday was unbelievable with the number of outstanding individual performances and exciting finishes. Let's start in Harrisonburg, where Elon went into sold-out Bridgeport Stadium and came away with a 27-24 victory that ended JMU's conference record 20-game winning streak and FCS best 19-game home field win streak. The Dukes made some uncharacteristic mistakes and had 2 touchdowns called back by penalties, but that should take nothing away from what the Phoenix were able to accomplish. Behind a season-high 186 yards from Malcolm Summers, Elon was able to move the ball on the ground against one of the best defenses in FCS, and quarterback Davis Cheek was extremely poised in leading a 10-play, 74-yard drive in the final 3 minutes for the game-winning touchdown. All-America linebacker Warren Messer and the Elon defense also played very well, limiting JMU to 103 yards on the ground and forcing the Dukes to kick 4 field goals in the red zone. Speaking of field goals, Maine got a school record 52-yard boot from Kenny Doak as time expired to edge Villanova 13-10. The Black Hole defense limited Villanova to just 181 total yards as Maine improved to 2-0 in CAA play, while the Wildcats suffered their second straight heartbreaker. Towson also improved to 2-0 as it defeated Stony Brook 52-28 to snap the Seawolves' 4-game winning streak. Shane Simpson got things started by returning the opening kickoff 96 yards for a touchdown, and Tom Flacco took it from there, throwing for 319 yards and 4 scores as the Tigers continue to light up the scoreboard. Danny Rocco returned to Richmond and picked up his 100th career win as the Blue Hens jumped out to a 16-0 advantage in the first 5 minutes and went on to a 43-28 triumph at Richmond. William & Mary rallied for 2 touchdowns in the final 5 minutes to beat UAlbany 25-22. Quarterback Sean Mitchell ran in from 6 yards out for the game-winning TD with 50 seconds left and then added to the lead by catching a pass on the 2-point conversion. Finally, CA football completed non-conference play with a sparkling 20-4 record against FCS foes as Rhode Island and New Hampshire posted shutout victories. Reserve quarterback Vito Priori threw for 310 yards and 4 touchdowns as the Rams took home the Governor's Cup with a 48-0 triumph over Brown, while Trevor Knight returned under center for the Wildcats and passed for 237 yards and 4 TDs as UNH topped Holy Cross 28-0 for their first win of the year.
Well, like you said, Rob, it will be conference matchups the rest of the way. Let's dive into some of them this Saturday. Beginning on CA.TV at noon, a top 25 matchup again as Maine travels to Kingston to take on Rhode Island.
Yeah, not only does this contest feature 2 top 25 teams, but both of these squads are 2-0 in CA play and are looking to stay atop the league standings. One big thing to watch is the quarterback situation, where starters Chris Ferguson and Juwan Lawson both missed last week's games due to injuries, and their status is unknown for Saturday. Now, Maine showed improvement in the run game versus Villanova, with Joe Fitzpatrick and Ernest Edwards combining for 118 yards. The Black Hole defense, led by linebacker Sterling Sheffield and Deshaun Stevens, is outstanding and tops the CA with 22 sacks and is #1 in the nation against the run. Now, they're going to be tested by a Rhode Island offense that's generating over 400 yards and 37 points per game. The Rams are especially good through the air with their talented fleet of receivers Aaron Parker, Isaiah Coulter, and Marvin Beauvais. Now, Rhodey's defense ranks 2nd in the CA to Maine with 17 sacks after recording 7 last week, and they also have 30 tackles for loss. LB Mack leads that charge with 6 sacks and 9 stops behind the line of scrimmage. Both of these teams have a lot of momentum, and this battle for first place should be a good one.
Yes, it should. At 1 o'clock on Fox College Sports, Fox Sports Go, and CA.TV, 2 teams looking to bounce back after tough losses as JMU hits the road to take on Villanova.
Yeah, no, JMU had never lost a CA game in 3 seasons under Mike Houston, so I'm sure there's been plenty of extra motivation to get back on the winning track in practice this week. Even with the miscues against Elon, the Dukes still showed a lot of fight, putting together a pair of touchdown drives in the 4th quarter to take a 24-20 lead with 7 minutes to go. Quarterback Ben DiNucci threw for 316 yards while getting some pressure, but the key for JMU will be finding a way to get its usually dominant run game going against a defensive scheme that is similar to what they saw last week. Now, Villanova has dropped its last 2 games by a total of 5 points, and they're a much better team than that 0-3 CA record would suggest. The Wildcats struggled offensively last week as quarterback Zach Bednarczyk missed the game with a shoulder injury, but Villanova has put up at least 400 yards in every game he's been under center, and they have the weapons at the skill positions to make things happen. Now, one thing both of these teams can count on is dominating defense. The Dukes are giving up just 268 yards and 11 points per game. The Wildcats are allowing only 303 yards and 20 points per contest. Their past 2 meetings have been hard-fought, low-scoring affairs, and that could be the case again on Saturday.
At 3:30, Delaware returns to Newark to take on Elon on NBC Sports Philadelphia and SNY. These two teams on the opposite end of last week, coming off big wins on the road.
Yeah, two very big and very impressive wins for both of these teams, and it's going to be interesting to see how they can build off that success this week. Elon showed just how far their program has come under Curt Cignetti by knocking off JMU, and that victory vaulted the Phoenix into the top 5 in the national rankings for the first time in a decade. Elon features the top rushing attack in the CAA behind Malcolm Summers and Deshaun McNair, and their ability to move the chains sets up the pass for Davis Cheek, who's completing 66% of his throws and hasn't been picked off in the past 4 games. Now, Elon's defense was sensational at JMU as they were able to slow down the Duke's rushing attack and record 5 quarterback sacks behind big days from Warren Messer and Matt Baker. Speaking of great defense, Delaware forced 6 turnovers in their win at Richmond last week. Nasir Adderley picked off a pair of passes and Colby Reeder returned to fumble 34 yards for a touchdown. Now, they will need a similar effort on Saturday to try to slow Elon down. Offensively, quarterback Pat Kehoe bounced back from a tough outing at North Dakota State by throwing for 290 yards and 2 TDs against the Spiders. He was able to hit on several big plays through the air, which could lead to more openings for the Blue Hens' rushing attack. Now, Delaware should be fired up to be back at home for the first time in a month, but Elon's already proven they can get a win in a tough environment.
Yes, they have. Also at 3:30, it is our CAA football game of the week on collegesportslive.com and can be seen on NBC Sports Boston as New Hampshire welcomes Stony Brook to Durham.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about how quarterback injuries have affected several CAA teams, but New Hampshire is a perfect example of why it's such a big deal. CAA preseason player of the year Trevor Knight returned under center for the first time since the opener, and the Wildcats nearly doubled their season point total as he threw 4 touchdown passes in the win over Holy Cross. Not only did his presence lead to a breakout game for All-America wide receiver Neil O'Connor, but it also created lanes on the ground as Evan Gray and Trayvon Bryant combined for 150 yards. Now, the Wildcats' defense also fed off that momentum as they held Holy Cross to 233 total yards and recorded their first regular season shutout since 2010. Now, Stony Brook fell into a quick 21-0 hole at Towson last Saturday and could never really recover as their 4-game win streak came to an end. Quarterback Joe Carbone had a solid day with 195 yards and 2 touchdowns through the air, but the Long Island Express of Jordan Gowans and Donald Leah team was limited to 71 yards. It's going to be important for them to get going on Saturday. Now, the Seawolves defense will also need to bounce back after struggling to generate their usual pressure to slow down the Tigers. New Hampshire will be looking to string back-to-back home wins together, but I'm sure Stony Brook will be very motivated to turn in a better performance on the road.
Yep. At 4 o'clock on CA.TV, William & Mary will look to build off their comeback victory last week, but will take on a red-hot Towson Tiger team at United Stadium.
Yeah, red-hot is the perfect description for Towson, which has scored at least 44 points in 3 consecutive games for the first time in program history, and they're sitting atop the CA standings at 2-0. The Tigers' offense is generating a league-best 477 yards per game behind the dynamic play of quarterback Tom Flacco, who leads the league with 14 touchdown passes and also ranks 6th in the conference in rushing. Running back Shane Simpson is the #1 in the CAA in all-purpose yards, and Shane Leatherberry is #1 in receptions, so there's a lot of weapons for defenses to be concerned with. With the big offensive numbers, it's easy to overlook Towson's defense, but they've shown steady improvement and were very good against the run a week ago. Now, they will be facing a William & Mary offense that had its best performance of the year in a comeback win over UAlbany. Quarterback Sean Mitchell was 24-32 for 263 yards and 2 touchdowns last week and showed his maturity and growth in leading 2 touchdown drives in the final 5 minutes. Devontae Dedman continues to provide big plays on the outside, making 7 catches for 138 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Great Danes. And the Tribe defense held UAlbany's prolific passing attack to just 131 yards last week and recorded 2 interceptions. They will face even a bigger test this week against the Tigers.
Yes, they will. We wrap up with a 7 o'clock matchup with Albany at home to take on Richmond. Both these teams are in desperate need of a win, Rob, going into this one.
Yeah, it's been a tough 3-week stretch of CAA play for the Spiders since getting off that 2-1 overall start. 6 turnovers doomed Richmond in last Saturday's setback to Delaware, which overshadowed the fact that they piled up 608 yards in total offense. Joe Mancuso got the start at quarterback after Kevin Johnson was forced to sit out with a concussion, and he threw for 489 yards and 3 touchdowns and also ran for a team-high 71 yards, but unfortunately was picked off 5 times. It was also a big afternoon for the Spiders' all-conference receivers as Courtral Simpson caught 8 passes for 220 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Tyler Wilkins had 8 catches for 175 yards and a score. That shows the type of big play potential the Spiders have. Now, Richmond made some adjustments defensively to try to get its best players on the field, and it made some strides, especially with stopping the run. That run defense will be challenged on Saturday as UAlbany's Elijah Token-Hanks broke loose for a season-high 221 yards and a touchdown in the Great Danes' difficult loss at William & Mary. UAlbany's passing game struggled for the first time all year against the Tribe, but speedy freshman Dev Holmes gives the Great Danes a game breaker on the outside. Injuries continue to hinder the UAlbany defense, especially in the secondary, and that could be a concern this week versus those Richmond receivers. Now, the past 2 years, these teams have played a triple overtime game and a double overtime game. It wouldn't be a shock if we go down to the wire once again.
Nope. CASports.com/live scores is your source for live scoring and in-game live stats throughout this Saturday. And also remember to check in with us later Saturday night with a complete wrap-up with our CA Football Rewind on CAFootball.com.
Yeah, you can continue to follow the league on our many social media platforms such as Facebook.com/CA Football and Twitter @CA Football using the hashtag CAFB.
The CA Football on-campus crew will be back on the road this week as they visit Rhode Island. Make sure to follow all the CA Football social media platforms this week for all the coverage from Kingston, and tune in next Thursday for a Going Deep feature on the Rams. That is it from us today. Enjoy the games, everyone.